Hello, I'm live. I thought I was going to do something. I am live and I'm not at home and I'm looking very relaxed. I'm actually at the Osmompreneur conference and retreat. I've just arrived in the Sunshine Coast of Queensland, so I'm going to be up here for the next 3 nights. But today, before that, I'm going to be chatting live with Jo Wise. So here I am here in Sunshine Coast. I would like to, as I always do, acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, acknowledging the elders past, present and emerging. So acknowledging the land that we meet on today. So let me introduce Jo Wise, amazing leadership. Hello. Hopefully my internet holds up because I am on the fly today. Is she coming? She's coming. She's coming. Here we go. There she is. Hello, how are you?
Hi, Emma. Great to see you. Hi, everybody.
Hey, good to have you here. So I'm doing things on the fly as always. Just getting all set up because I'm away. Tell us, Jo, who are you? Where are you? And a bit about your leadership coaching.
Oh, thank you so much. Just had to close the window. I had somebody started mowing next door. So it's great to be here with you, Emma. And it's always exciting to see where you are because you're always popping up somewhere different.
I know. Where in the world is Emma Lovell? That's the question. But we want to know about you.
Okay, so well, thanks. I'm Jo Wise, as you said, and I'm a leadership coach, and I work with high-performing female leaders that work in male-dominated industries like pharmaceutical and banking and agriculture and lots of industries like that. And I really work with women to help them reconnect with their energy and their confidence and get back so they're feeling that clarity and they can make those smart decisions and feel good about what they're doing again. So that's kind of the space that I play in. And those women, as I said, work in really those male-dominated industries. So yeah, it's a great space to play.
And how did you get into coaching? What was your what's your origin story?
Oh, look, I'd love to tell you that it was like, I sat out with a clear strategy and I started here and I ended up here, but it looks a little bit more like a maze than that. I worked through many different industries in my career. And then about 12 years ago, once I had my son, literally like the second I had my son, I thought about moving into coaching. I realized that it was time for me to do something different. I really was focused on holidays off with him. I wanted to be able to, yep, we're back. I wanted to have school holidays and spend time with him after school. So I started thinking of what I could do, and that's sort of what led me to the coaching industry. And I always sort of talk about the fact that I got into, I started coaching because he was sleeping a lot. But then by the time he actually woke up, I had a business and it was all going. But it didn't start out with leadership. It was, for me, I literally, the first couple of years in coaching, I just coached anyone that couldn't outrun me. I would talk to anyone about coaching. I would find anyone that I could coach. And that for me was actually part of the learning process. Because I didn't know what I didn't know.
Yeah.
So coaching just anyone that I could get access to. I would talk to anyone about coaching, the barista, the mums in the park, whoever I could access. What I started to work out was the people that I really liked to work with, people that really got sort of the messages and really resonated. So I kind of sort of started that area. And then I sat back and reflected on what I already had. So I think sometimes when we move into a new area, we think we have to start from scratch. But I realized within the first sort of 12 months that I had a lot of really great sort of skills. I'd worked for American Express for sort of the last 10 years, and I'd worked in sort of with leaders and done communications and lots of training. And I was like working like, what have I got? This coaching stuff, this is what I like. And also thought about what I wanted to see in the world. Sounds like a pretty big question, but, with having a young baby like you've got, I started to sort of think about things differently. I'm like, what sort of a world do I want him to grow up in?
Absolutely.
And so, like, it was more like a jigsaw of like, I'd get one bit slotted in, and then the rest of the jigsaw would be empty, and then I'd find the next bit and put in. But that took place over a couple of years. And then I think probably one of the most pivotal things about getting into the leadership space was I remember one day I was making some calls to people that I'd known over the years that I wanted to do some work with, which, deliver some training and some coaching stuff, just looking for people to talk to me actually about what I was doing. And I remember looking over at my bookshelf and seeing like lines and lines of all of these leadership books. And I was like, I think there's got to be something in this, because till then I wasn't doing leadership. I was just doing coaching, whatever I could find. And I was sort of thinking about it. And then I made my call and, called this guy that I wanted to work with. And I found myself talking about my passion for leadership and communication and emotional intelligence, all the things that I'd loved from my career. And he just said to me, well, why don't you put some programs together for that? Because clearly that's what you're doing. And I'm like, yes, that is what I'm doing. And from there, really, that was just an opportunity that I grabbed in the moment. And I've actually continued working at that business now, and it's one of the contracts that I do every single year for like 11 years. So, jumping out there, grabbing on and not really knowing. And from there I got, the more I talked about it, about what I was really passionate about, the more opportunities that came and I sort of tracked down. So that's a very higgledy-piggledy story of how I got into leadership coaching. Certainly wasn't a straight line.
Puzzle analogy, because I use that as well, and I say we are a puzzle, we are a beautiful puzzle, and you need all the pieces together and in the right order in order to see the picture. But sometimes the the pieces are just a bit disconnected or a bit lost, maybe under the couch. So it's bringing all those pieces together. And that's what you've done, and at the start you're sort of moving the puzzle around. And I think that's something that, happens with personal brand people and with my clients is they're like, I don't know how to talk about myself. I'm not sure. I don't know what I'm doing. And it's like, actually the way to do it is to test it and to practice it and to talk about it and to start and say it. And it might come out, I'm sure when you were first talking, like you're talking to every single person you knew about coaching, I'm sure it was coming out probably a little bit not ideal, like if you heard yourself back, like what was I saying? But you were passionate and you were excited, and so people got onto that. But as you went along, and as when you aligned it with your life, which you were even talking to me about this morning, it gets clearer and clearer and clearer. It's lovely. Speaking of, there's my life coming in.
Oh, nice life. Oh, is that a cocktail?
We've got the family. There we go. We're talking about work-life balance. We're calling it harmony. That's the new word.
Yeah, I like that. Balance is a little bit, like hard to work out, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
make it work.
And what you said around that, like not getting it right at the start, I think that's one of the things that I find working with, I work with the career women in branding, and you do it from like an entrepreneurial CEO, founder perspective. And we do, because we care about what we do, we want to get it right up front, but it doesn't happen that way. I mean, I remember standing on the side of a road out the front of a petrol station years ago, getting picked up to go to a networking event, and like going like, what am I going to say about when someone asks me what I do? I was like, what am I going to say? So I stood there for like 15 minutes until my ride came with a recorder, walking up and down the street going, hi, my name's Joe. And and then eventually I got one right. It sounded like, and I stopped and I listened to it, and then I wrote it down, and I was like, oh, I like that. That was it. And then that's what I ended up saying that night. And then, noticed what other people paid attention to. It was like, okay.
I love that. The same story I have, where I was like, because when you're moving into a new space and you have all this experience and you have all these skills and you have all this knowledge, but we're just repackaging it, or we're sort of serving it in a different way, but you're so used to this old line, and we get so used to a role or title, and I think it happens to people more in the corporate as well, especially, and the people that I have that are moving from that space are so used to having a title. When you have to introduce yourself and how you do it, or what you do, and I hate that line, what do you do? It's like, who am I?
Yeah, I know.
But we do have to introduce ourselves. We need some lines to work with, and I remember, and I was agonizing, and someone just said, Emma, why don't you just say this? And I was like, oh yeah, I'm Emma and I'm the branding coach. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that actually sounds right. And
Yeah,
I was talking to
easier.
I was talking to a client of mine the other day about this. She's a like global operations manager for a non-for-profit. They run a solar business. It's an incredible business. It's global now. And like talking about like what exactly, how do you talk about what you do? And she's an engineer, and she's like, typically that's not an overly exciting place. But we've been sort of really cultivating how she can say that in a way so that she can really set herself aside, because she's not just an engineer. No one's just anything, but she's so passionate. It's like this absolute pocket rocket. And so she's really like been able to sort of come up with a statement that is really her, covers what she does, but also allows her to sort of capture her passion.
Yeah.
And that even just her turning up and saying that sets her aside from pretty much the rest of the industry anyway. So it's a great way of being able to stand out, but in a way that actually feels right. When you eventually get it right, yeah, like we said, through the practice,
But it takes
you
time to
eventually
practice,
land on something.
to
It
build
does.
this, and it's building, and it's working on it, and it's trying it out. And I think what we both see is that people, women often, and we both work with leaders,
Yeah.
are not showing up enough, and it's
Yeah.
because maybe they don't know how, or there's that imposter syndrome, or they feel like there's everyone else is already doing it, or it's a bit too hard, or people will figure it out on their own. And it's like, well, no, but if you're not telling your story, if you're not putting yourself forward, and I don't work in your space as much, but in the corporate even, I think people don't think about it like, oh, but I'm within a company, so it doesn't matter. Well,
Yeah.
it does, doesn't it? Like, and this is sort of the old way of thinking, isn't it? That you leave your personality or your brand
Oh,
at the door, and you take on the company, and
yeah.
you are the company.
Yeah. And it doesn't work that way anymore. And it's like, it's one of the conversations I have with my clients all the time around, you know, the old way of just working harder, faster, longer, and more, and then expecting people to know how awesome you are and then giving you kudos for that. It just doesn't work anymore. Like, we're in a world at the moment where if you're not putting yourself out there, people are not going to know. And there's going to be, I had a conversation. I was on a panel last week at a Women in Leadership group and summit. And one of the things people were saying, but why can't people just know that I'm doing a great job? Why isn't that enough? I'm like, because there's so many people doing a great job. Yeah. But, how nobody's got the time to pay attention to you and your individual career plan. That's when we take responsibility for it ourselves. That's when we've got to put ourselves out there. And I think the thing that I find with women a lot is when we say putting themselves out there, they suddenly think they've got to be, like I always say, this is not about you jumping on the, executive table and doing a dance and going, it's all about me, me, me. This is about you going, okay, who am I? What are the bits of me that I want to share at work? How am I going to bring that in a way that is, hashtag authentic? I know everyone's talking about authenticity, but, bringing the real you to work and then being able to share that in an articulate way where it resonates with people. Like, that's it. This is not, creating, billboards of yourself or, talking about me, me, me. But we've all seen it done that way, and it doesn't feel right for a lot of women. It certainly doesn't feel right for me to do that.
No.
But I think that's the point. We've got to find a way that works for us and still get our message across, right?
And sometimes it's really, it just does come down to that belief and backing yourself and being able to put yourself forward for the opportunity. And that can still be done in a very humble way. But, we
Yeah.
are talking about women. We both have chosen to specialize with women, though we can both work with men. But my husband has the same issue of like, he's like, oh, everyone will just see what everyone will just see that I'm doing it. I don't need to tell them. I'm like, no, they won't.
No. Yeah.
Everyone's too busy in their own stuff, and you are so loyal
Yeah.
and you're so dedicated and you're amazing at what you do. But this old mate over here is telling everybody how great he is, and
Yeah.
putting in hours and being very loud about it. They're going to see that. And also he's
And
looking up and saying, I want this, I want that, I want to be this. He's saying what he
yes.
wants. And why should we, even personally, I said to him when we were buying a house, you should tell your work about that. He said, why? They don't care about my personal life. I said, excuse me, that shows you're dedicated. That shows that you're serious about being here. That shows commitment. That shows long term. So you say, I'm looking to buy a home. I want to be, this is the sort of position I need because we want to have our family here. family values, commitment, security, dedication. They're gonna love that. So why would you not? Why
There's a
would
lot of unconscious stuff as well. Like people are making assumptions based on
you?
like around him about what they're saying, whether that's like he's giving them the right line so that they can make it mean what they want. But you're
Yeah.
right, it is like it's sending that unconscious message of commitment and long-term dedication and all of those things. So yeah.
Even in those roles, people go, I didn't even know you wanted that. Like later on, I wanted to go for this position, or actually I'd really like to move to this other team. Oh, I never knew that for you. I didn't know that was a thing. Oh, okay. Say it. Actually, I'd really like to progress into this area. I would like to learn this. I see this future for myself. Yeah. I'd like to have the media opportunities. I would like to be able to attend events and partnership. Like that is putting yourself forward. That's backing yourself, and that's part of your brand as well. Like, I believe in this. It can be as simple as that, and I think it does get so misconstrued as for me, like in my line, it's more like influencer, or they think I'm going to shove them on a stage and I'm going to make them do all these like star shot style 90s photo shoots and stuff. I'm like,
yeah,
I want you to believe in yourself and stand up and make the impact that you can. That's all I want.
I know, and it's done in their way then, right? So because it's never going to land otherwise, and we know, like we can smell that inauthenticity because we've seen so much of it. We can smell it a mile away. So it's just sort of stepping back and going, no, this is my part. This is what I'm going to bring, and not assuming that everyone else can read our minds.
No.
One of the things I joke with my clients around brand is, like, where's your manager's crystal ball? Like, because I think it's broken. I think the batteries are out. Because, like, have you had the conversation, like you said with Matt, have you had the conversation? I had a client a couple of years ago I worked with, and she was like, I absolutely know that the business that I work with, everybody in the C-suite knows exactly where I want to be in the next 5 years' time. I can see you drinking your little cocktail there, Emma.
I'm on such a
and she was like,
I have to.
It's so good. Keep having it. And she was like, everybody absolutely knows. And I said, well, why don't you go and have a conversation? And there's a structure that I get the women to follow when they're, talking about personal brand with people, about asking them, what I do well, what can I improve, what are your recommendations, and to share what their plans are for the future. And she said, out of the 6 people in the C-suite, like CEO, CFO, COO, all of the, the C-suite, not one of them recognized or had realized that that's where she wanted to be within a period of time. And even one of the CFO said to her, oh, I thought, I know because you got married in the last 12 months, I'd kind of assumed that you'd go off and have babies, and I'd kind of written you off for any career plans in the future. Now, she had to breathe through that one a lot, but that's what I know. I was like, oh, she did so well to just breathe through it and be present. But if we're not telling people, then they're going to be making their own assumptions. So
absolutely. And it's look, because it's in our head so much, and it's like recently I did a launch and I did 8 days, and I was on lives, I was on photos, I was interviewing, I was here, and a couple of people saw it and they were like everywhere, like, and then other people were like, oh, hey, what have you been up to? And I was like, well, I just launched a course. Oh, really? They didn't see it, but you.
How can you not see it? That's the whole world.
Like, I saw it, but some people, you think, oh yeah, we're telling everybody, I've told everybody, blah blah blah. I've still got people going, what? You have a baby? He's 10 months old. Like, but they just see it because people are in their own lives, they're in their worlds. Literally, there's an algorithm online that stops people from seeing stuff. So if you're not directly telling them, which is why as well, when we're talking about all this stuff, it's not just about saying, and you're talking about having conversations, because I think people think when I talk about brand, it is that digital presence. But I'm saying, I want you to, in an email, put yourself forward. I want you to be able to walk into a room at a event and say, hello, this is me, I am, and and confidently be able to say that to even just one person. We're not trying to reach 100, 1,000, a million people. We're just trying to connect with the right people, the people that you want to be connected with, to get you the things that you want in your life. That's it.
And then have those conversations. And it's like, I always talk about, like, when Nike comes out with a new pair of sneakers, do they just tell you once? It's like, no, they tell you 1,000 times. It's everywhere. It's like, we need to remember that with our brand. Like, what are the opportunities? Like, where can I be having these conversations? Is it like, in the elevator, when you're in there with the right person? Is it, in a meeting, can I share a case study of how I've just landed something successfully? Is there, something that, me and my team have done together? Like, what are the opportunities? How can I put those opportunities out there? And then it feels more like I'm telling a story and this is me sharing something. So, we've got to,
Often that's what it is. And it's the way that I have always talked about my business. It's just you're talking as a person, and then when it relates back, and it's not even like this is my time, this is the time to say it. It's just that what you said relates back to what I do. So when I'm working with my clients, that reminds me of, and then you tell them,
yeah,
oh, that's interesting.
yeah,
How do you work with your clients? Oh, well, I'm a personal branding coach. Well, what's personal branding? Oh, well, I do this. You know, it's
yeah,
it's that, and the same, with you, where we've been on calls and just hearing you speak and hearing, oh, Joe works with leaders. Oh, okay. So then I want to know more. It's like it's a spark. We're just throwing sparks.
yeah,
We're igniting little flames, just like a relationship.
yeah,
You don't meet somebody, see them once, and expect that you're going to be besties, or I don't know, get married or whatever. Like, you have to work on that relationship. And the same in our work presence. We have to keep showing up and keep saying what
yeah.
we want, keep expressing our needs. It's very much like a relationship.
Yeah. It actually is. I'm like thinking about that's a really great analogy, Emma, because it's like, it's like with relationships, I always talk about jelly beans in the jar, for trust. You put jelly beans in and you're going to have to take jelly beans out. I think our brand, if we think about our brand like a bit of an investment, like we do with relationships, then it sets us up really well. It's like, what am I actually at the end of the week during, I talk to my clients about having some reflection time on Friday, even if it's just a short period of time, about what I did well, what could I have done better, and so on. And it's like, even if we take that, that's one of the questions that we ask of, how do I put my brand out here? Like, judgment free, not coming from a place of like kindness for ourselves, but, what were how could I put my brand out there this week? What did I do really well with that? Was there an opportunity that maybe I didn't do it? How would I do that next time?
Yeah.
So that then we've got that, we're open up for that opportunity when it comes up again, and we're a little bit prepared. Not so that it's like completely structured. Oh, here's my thing. This is Joe Wise is da da da. But it's so that it actually is like a conversation, like in a relationship. You're having a conversation with people, human beings. So yeah,
Be a human, be a person. I love
be,
that.
be a human. Treat other people like humans.
Well, even we've had a conversation recently, and we were reflecting on our strategy and what we take into next year. And there'll be weeks that I look at my social media or something and go, oh, there's a lot of I've promoted other people, or I've talked about other things. My photo's not really there. I haven't shown up and said, hey, by the way, I'm Emma. There's other ways to call me, and I'm like, oh, I probably should let people know what I'm offering, And even I had that reminder last week where I was talking to them, and I told them about some of my new offerings for 2022, which is coming up soon, and I'll be sharing it everywhere. But she was like, oh, thank you. I've been waiting to know how I could work with you. Like, sometimes we just don't tell people. We're all like, I'm here. Like, actually, did you know that you could work with me in this way? What?
Yeah.
Like,
And this is how.
yeah.
Like, let's make it really simple.
And she didn't have that information. And it's like, oh, let me tell you. And there it was. So it's like we just, just having that little reflection time and looking at telling me to go over there. Yes, so yeah, just having that reflection time is really important. And as you said, not judgmental, just being open and just, being able to look at how it is. Have a little, I talk about a brand audit. There's a link in my bio for a brand audit. Go and have it, check it out. Of how are you showing up currently? How are you putting yourself forward currently? And then it's just a check-in. Just, okay, that's how it is. I'm really happy. Joe, Googled you. Very good. Happy to see you there a lot. Well, but one of the things we talked about as well in our strategy for next year was having more fun, and I'd love for you to share a little bit about that reflection that we had together.
Yeah, absolutely. It was great. I mean, that process you and I went through, that's something that I do every single year. And I think it's changed form a little bit. You know, I'm from Victoria, so we've been through COVID, you know, blah, blah, we talk about. But it sort of has changed form a little bit for me. And I've really sort of gone back to how is it that I want to feel. But this process that I follow around, you know, pretty much putting my year together for that next year, it really is about recognizing, like, what is it that I want to be feeling? What is it I want to be experiencing? And then for me, then I plug in that, okay, what is it that I want to do and achieve over the next 12 months to do that? And for me, that system is so, I mean, there's, you know, a bunch of stuff, obviously, that we went through, and I got some great stuff, ideas from you as well. But it's that, like, for me, I've got an online membership called Women in Leadership Connect, and we meet a couple of times a month, and we do this sort of set up at the beginning of the year, set our year up. And I follow the exact system that I follow every year myself. And then we do it every quarter as well. We do like a mini catch up for an hour every quarter to check in on your goals. What are the milestones? What are you moving towards? And it's like, it's so powerful when we get clear on what we want to feel and then plug the actions into that. You know, that's helped women in my group over the last 12 months have bought and sold houses, you know, got promotions, huge pay rises they never dreamed of, you know, opportunities like speaking gigs, on television opportunities, like things that they're like, oh, I'd really like to do that. But then if you're not sitting down and sort of planning that time, putting some time aside for it for yourself, it's one of those things that could be, you know, in the back of your mind for years. Yeah. Whereas where, you know, when you and I sit down and do that strategy session, and I work with my group, and I know you work with your clients like this as well, you know, that time, it's such an investment in yourself. Just put that time aside and go, even if it's like, pick one thing that I'm going to focus on this next year and or this quarter, and how can I make it happen? It just is like, I mean, we know like the results that we get. The reason that we've got the businesses that we have is because we do this stuff. So,
absolutely. And it is, what do I want? How do I want to create it? What do I want it to look like? And it's not, oh, because of this, because of that, because of that. No, I'm talking clean slate. I'm talking ideal. Yeah. Your best. And we might not get all of it, but we're going to get some of it at least. We're going to get close to it. Why can't you decide what you want for your life? Why can't you put that out there? Why can't you say, I want to go away to the Sunshine Coast and be at a retreat? Why can't you? And then do it, you know.
And, you know, and like you said, you know, not everyone achieves it. I certainly didn't. Like over the last 2 years, I have not achieved, I've probably achieved less of my goals than I have for many, many years. But I was talking to a client about this recently and saying that the thing is, if you don't, it's a bit like, you know, with like a bow and arrow and the target.
Yeah.
You know, you've got the goal as the one right in the middle, and you're not always going to hit that right in the center, that red spot right in the center. But you know, I mean, I'm not very good at like archery, but at least I'm going to be heading in the right direction, right? So I'm going to be a bit, you know, I might hit it. I will bang it, absolutely get the jackpot sometimes. Sometimes I'm not even going to get on the board, but at least I'll get in the right direction. And other times you're going to overshoot a lot and like beyond your dreams that you could. But I think we've got to be willing to sit in that space and go, yeah, well, it's okay if I don't get it every single time. It's more around like, who am I being in the process? You know, we've seen that on hash, you know, Facebook a billion times, but it's true. Like when we're setting ourselves these goals around how is I want to feel and then taking steps towards it, we do make changes in our behavior and how we're turning up and who we are. Because we're doing things that are outside of our comfort zone and creating opportunities like going to a retreat and drinking like cocktails with your family, you know, on the Sunshine Coast.
Or 11:30, whatever. It's 12 o'clock.
It is 12:30 here, 11:30 there.
But, you know, I love saying it, and you said it earlier and it came to my mind, but it's that, you know, people won't remember what you said. They'll remember how you made them feel. Maya Angelou said that. Why don't we think about how we feel, how you know, putting it into that place. And we both decided we want to have that fun. We want to have that freedom. Why do we run our own businesses if we don't have that? So why are we not including the things that light us up? And when we're excited and passionate, I mean, even the EDM I wrote last week, it came off the back of a little rant, right? Because I was passionate about that topic. And so it's like, it came from that place. And so it's going to resonate more with people. So if you can get into that place yourself of what excites me, what drives me, what do I want, people are going to connect to that.
And you know, Emma, I think you're such a good role model for that as well, because you Like you are so like, hashtag authentic, but you are so real and you turn up as yourself every time. And not only that, there's something that is a real standout ever since the first time I met you, which is probably only a year in the last year or two that I met you, is how generous you are. And you mentioned before around putting your brand out there and realizing that you've been giving call outs to everybody else, but you needed to get your own face back up there. That's certainly something that I've learned for you is I'm doing that more. Whereas my face is up on all of my social media all of the time and, you know, I'm talking about it. But for me, I recognize that, oh, I could actually be doing that better. I think you're such a great role model as far as that. That's really generous. It's a really great thing to have attached to your brand is your generosity. And I think that that's probably one of the first things I think of when I think of, you know, Emma, successful businesswoman, branding, and your generosity is just incredible. So I think it's a really great thing to think about with our brands as well, of how we can be adding value to others, not at the cost of our own. Of course, it becomes part of it. But yeah, that's something that I've definitely learned from you even more.
Thank you so much. And we have to demonstrate it, and we have to live. We have to live it. If it's not true and it doesn't feel right, and it feels like it, you know, if it feels like work and it feels, oh, we're going to do this, you know, that's why if we can bring the fun into it and the feeling good about it, like, you know,
Yeah.
I like that. Let's do more of that. You know, everyone's like, yeah, I want to jump on that, which is why we're here live. I could talk to you all day. I'm going to get you on the podcast, and you know, we need like time limits because but I'm so grateful for the strategy session we had. You're so Joe Wise. I can't, you know, I'm lovely. You're wise. Our names.
That's a match made in heaven, I'd say.
Please tell me or tell everyone how we can connect with you.
Thanks, Emma. So, well, my website, joewiseleadership.com, is there. And there's also a link on there around Women in Leadership Connect, which is the membership that I've got with, you know, for female leaders that just to spend some time with like-minded female leaders that get it. We really sort of work through the challenges that female leaders face that are different from what other people face in the workplace. So you can find me on my website. You can find me on LinkedIn is one of the places that I hang out a lot under Joe Wise Leadership as well. So yeah, I'd love you to connect with me. And I've got lots of videos that I share with my group ongoing that I'm very generous with sharing. So there's always some resources that I've got for smart women. So
love it. Thank you so much for your time. As I said, we could talk for hours, but really appreciate it. Always value your wisdom, Joe Wise. Have a wonderful day. Take care.
thank you, and you're lovely. Thank you, Emma. Great to hear from you. Great to catch up. We'll see you soon. Thanks, everybody.